Hey guys, it's Austin. Welcome to your second episode of ROBLOX Lua GUI scripting tutorials. I'm sorry if you can't understand me that well. I guess I have a bit of a cold. So today I'm gonna go over some different properties of different GUI elements, billboard, surface, and screen. So I'm gonna get started with screen, but first I'm gonna fix up my windows here. Oops. Okay. I'm gonna start by inserting where is it? Screen GUI. I always have such a hard time finding that. Next to frame. So I'm not gonna worry about the ones that are grayed out because we can't edit them directly, so there's no use in going over them. First, active. This basically dictates whether, say I have a mouse button one-click event inside this GUI frame. If there's an object like layered below that, I think with Z and X, if you guys know what that is, if not I'll go over it. It says if there is an object layered under it, then like any mouse events that you hook up to it are going to be passed to that one. Like if you have a mouse enter event on it or mouse button one click on it, it'll get passed. And that's the kind of stuff I'm going to go over later on in these videos. So background color 3, pretty self-explanatory. You just click that little white box there and you can edit the color you want. Pick one of these basic colors. They're not too bad. Or you can click here in the text and then edit the color 3 value directly. Yeah, it only goes up to 255 because well, those are the red, green, and blue color values. I'm not quite sure how to further explain that, but we can leave it at that. Background transparency, also pretty self-explanatory. You can set it between 0 and 1. Anything else will be completely transparent, I think. Well, anything under 0 will be solid, and anything above 1 will be transparent. So, 0, we'll set it to 0.1. You see that didn't make much of a difference. 0.2, a little bit more of a difference. 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, skip all the way up to 0.9, and it's almost completely invisible. Next, border color. That's also border color 3. That's also kind of self-explanatory. You can do the same thing as if with background color 3. You use the little color selector over here to do whatever you want with it, or type in red, green, blue color value here. And you see it has that border around the GUI. That's what this does. We can change it to this color and it'll change there. Then you can set the size of it with border size pixel. You can set it to 2, 3, 4, 5, pretty much as big as you want. We can set it to 100, and then it doesn't even look like a border anymore. That's fantastic. I usually like to use 5 or 3 depending on what I'm making. I don't usually go with 1 or 0 because I don't know, I think a border gives a better look to it usually. I don't know. The name property, also very self-explanatory. You set the name as it comes up in Explorer. Position, I went over this in the last video, so hopefully you guys watched that and I don't need to explain it here. I'm going to go ahead and set the position down here to about the middle of the screen, or it will be soon. Next is rotation. I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see the full effect that it has on your GUI element. So that to a darker color, okay. Okay, good enough. Now, rotation. Because of the fact that Roblox doesn't have this thing called anti-aliasing, which I'll explain a little further in a minute. When you set any degree of rotation to your GUI, it's going to have those weird lines right there all around it. You can set it to a negative value and it'll go the other way. You could maybe use a script to create a cool little shaking effect with this or something when you click it. Just a thought for any of you creative people out there. So yeah, anti-aliasing is pretty much what removes those little weird lines and makes it look smooth. Some people don't like it. Personally, I do. I think it makes it look kind of cool in a way. I don't even know. But yeah, that's up to you to decide if you want to use that or not. Selectable. Mouse over this. Selectable pretty much means, I think that has to do with whether you can touch it on a mobile device and it'll do something. I don't know. When I read up on it, I'm pretty sure that's what it does. Size, self-explanatory. I think I went over that in my other video too. You can set scale or the offset, and yeah, size constraint. This is a property that I think you'll never have to use. I read up on this a little bit earlier, and I've actually never used it before in all my time of developing, but it dictates sort of the way it resizes. Relative XX, relative XY, relative YY in relation to the X and Y axes. You guys can read up more on that if you want, but I think the default is relative XX. No, yeah, relative XY. Okay. Next, style. I think they're custom by default, but you can set them to a few different things. There's chat blue. It has that little blue bar on the side. If you put like a dialogue on some humanoid in your game, it's the same sort of look as that. It has chat green, a green bar, and chat red. Then there's custom, which means you can do whatever you want with them. If you have something like chat blue, I don't know if your background colors have an effect on them. No. Your background colors, your border colors, all those things that affect, that let you customize your GUI, they don't affect any other styles you put on them except for custom. So drop shadow, it sort of gives it slightly rounded edges, a little shadowy look to it, dark background. You have ROBLOX round, which has smudgy little edges. It's really dark. I don't like that look personally. Oops. Then ROBLOX square, which is the same thing as ROBLOX round, except the corners aren't cut off. I personally always set mine to custom so I can play with it how I want. Next is the visible property that I just messed with a second ago on accident. If it's true, then your frame is visible. If it's false, it's not. Simple as that. You can use this property if you want to toggle a shop's visibility on and off so it doesn't get in the way of people's screens. A cleaner way of that is tweening it, which is like you have something off the screen on a negative position on the X or Y axes, and you'll have it come in and say back out when it's toggled off. I'll go over that with you guys in some future video. It's really fun to do. I like it. Makes your game look a lot cleaner too. Next is the z-index property. And this is a fairly useful thing. Say you have several GUI elements that might get in the way of each other. Z-index or z-index, however you pronounce it, dictates what's on top. It goes from 1, I think, to 10. I think 10's the max. Okay, or, yeah. 10, try to set it to -1. Yeah, it goes from 1 to 10. Say we have this green frame, and we have this frame that's now blue. No, that's the same color. I'm not gonna do that. Okay, good enough. If we set... Okay, no, I don't think they could be parented to one another, then it won't work. I'm gonna set this all the way down here. Okay, there we go. And we're gonna mess with the z-index of this blue one, set it to 2. Now you can't see the green one because this blue frame has a higher z-index value than the green one. So that might come in handy for some of you. Archivable, you might notice this as a property of like pretty much almost every instance on Roblox. I wouldn't say you need to worry about this ever. I've never had to mess with it. I don't know anyone who has. Draggable, this is also kind of self-explanatory. It dictates whether you can drag your GUI element around the screen or not. I'm not sure if that works like on a mobile device where you touch the screen. I'm not sure how that works. So this property clips descendants. This is a sort of advanced property. I've never heard of anyone using it except there's been a lot of talk on the scripters forum today about sprite sheets. They want sprite sheets. Roblox won't give it to them, but you can use clips descendants to sort of imitate a sprite. But I think that's kind of inefficient. I don't know. You guys could experiment with this property if you want, I guess. It says, if set to true, any descendants of this GUI object will only render if contained within its borders. If set to false, all descendants will render regardless of position. So, pretty much, if you have it off, then there are no restrictions. If, I think it's like, say you have an image inside this frame. I'll test this out right now. Image label, bigger than the frame. Set clips descendant to true, see what happens. Yeah, it cuts off that image or whatever GUI element may be inside of it that leaves its borders. But when it's false, you can do whatever you want. So I guess keep it false and you have a little bit more freedom in your GUI making. I'm going to insert text label into this frame. Now, a text label and text box and text button, they all have relatively the same properties. Not much is very different about them, so I'm just going to show you guys the text label for now. It also has some of the same properties, data properties as a frame, but now I'm going to go over some text properties. I'm just going to skip over these since we've already been over them. So Roblox gives you a choice of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fonts. Let's see, Arial Bold, Legacy, which is the biggest, and I think I use this the most. Source Sans Bold, Source Sans Italic, and Source Sans Light. Source Sans Italic is kind of pretty, I guess, but my personal favorite is probably Source Sans Bold, Arial Bold, or the Legacy. Then it has font size. Lets you dictate the font size, which it actually lets the font go out of the GUI element, and if you have clips descendant on, it doesn't. I'm gonna keep that at 12, I guess. Text property that just dictates whatever text you have inside your element. Text bounds, that has to do with text scaled, which I'll explain in a minute. Text color 3 is another color 3 value that dictates the color of the text. Play around with it. set it to whatever you want, or type a number in. Text scaled, this dictates whether your text is scaled to the text bounds or the size of your element. Whether you have a background transparency of 1 or not, and it looks like the borders aren't there, but they are, it'll do this. And when you set text scaled on, notice that text wrap automatically comes on too, and this is very helpful, because let's see what happens when it's off. Yeah, no, we don't want that. So it's good to always keep text wrap on, especially when you have text scaled. Text stroke color, another color 3 value. Select a color or type in a number. This property, this has a property of text stroke transparency, and the text stroke is sort of the outer color around your text, like the frame has a border color 3 value. It automatically has a text stroke transparency of 1 because I guess it makes your GUIs less attractive. Oops. As you can see. Yeah. It'll usually look pretty awkward, but you guys can do with it what you want. Text transparency dictates the transparency of the text. I'd recommend probably setting it even with the transparency of your GUI element to just make it look consistent. Text X alignment, and this just dictates text X alignment and text Y alignment dictate what where your text is aligned on the X and Y axes. Center, left, right, center, bottom, top. I'll put it to the left, and you see it adjusted slightly. Top, bottom. Yeah, they're useful to mess with sometimes. Oops. I'll leave it at center for now. And then it has some of the same behavior properties as a frame too. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go on to scrolling frames. I haven't mentioned those very much. I don't personally work with scrolling frames a lot, but they can be pretty useful sometimes. Say if you want to make a shop or something and you don't want pages, you just want users to be able to scroll up and down if you have too much content. So it has some same properties of the regular frame. We'll scroll down here. Bottom image, mid image, and top image have to do with the scroll bar. I'm pretty sure you want to make them, I would say the same, but I guess not, since you want the whole bar to be consistent. Canvas position and canvas size, pretty sure that has to do with where any of your GUI elements inside of it start to roll off the page. It has this property called scroll bar thickness. You can set it to whatever you want, I think, except a negative number, I'm sure. Yeah, the minimum is 0 for no scrolling, I guess, and I guess it doesn't have a maximum value. The default is 12. It also has a property called scrolling enabled. I guess the scroll bar is still there, but you can't scroll with the scroller on your mouse or something. I don't know, like I said, I don't use these much. So that's it for the screen GUIs, I think. Okay, now I'm going to insert a part. Resize it a little bit. Right click, insert object. Let's look at the billboard GUI. So as I explained before, this is just something that pretty much hovers over your brick. Let's insert a text label. Okay, yeah, here. I guess it's automatically like in the middle of your brick. Active, I explained that on the frames. Always on top dictates whether it's always like showing through your brick. No matter where you are, it won't let the brick overlap it like it does here. And you see some of the sides sticking out there when you move around it. Enabled. Trying to get it to show again. Okay, we'll just leave it there for now. Enabled dictates whether it's enabled or not, whether you can see it or not, and that's not the same thing as visible because that's a property of frames and text labels and stuff like that. Enable just means if anything inside of it is pretty much interactable or not. Extents offset. It has an X and a Y and a Z. Both this and studs offset, they're pretty similar, but yeah, they're pretty similar. They just let you edit how far off your GUI element is from the center of your brick on the X, Y, and Z axes. I guess studs offset is in studs, while extents offset, I thought that was in studs too. Yeah, a vector 3 defined in studs that will offset the GUI from the extents of the 3D object that it's rendering from. Offset the GUI from the centroid of the 3D object. So the centroid and the extents. I guess the centroid means the center and the extents are the edges of it, how far it goes out. So that's how those are different. Size offset. A vector 2 defined in studs that will offset the GUI from its current size. Let's see what that does. This is also a way of positioning it. So it offsets from the GUI, or from the, yeah, it offsets the GUI from the brick based on its size. So all the text label and frame properties are pretty much the same inside this. I've never seen a scrolling frame on a billboard GUI. I wonder if they even work. That'd be interesting to see. Surface GUI. Active, I explained that before. Canvas size is, where are you at? Okay, I'll put this on the top. Canvas size is, I'll insert a frame to show you. It's pretty much the extents of the brick that it takes up. 1,000, 1,000. Yeah, I don't know, 800, 600 is the, for the whole face of that brick, I guess. Face is what face your GUI element is on. Right now we have them at the top and the right. Here's the right. Yeah, you can use that to suit your surface skis to your needs. Tool punch through distance. I've never had to use this property actually. I'm not 100% sure what it does. I remember researching it once, but I'm not sure it's very useful. Yeah, it has, well, the stuff in it has the same properties as it would on the screen GUI. Yeah, I guess that's all the properties I have to go over today. I was going to make a video on simple and advanced properties, but all of them are pretty easy to understand at first, if I explain them well. And if I didn't, just post a question in comments. You guys know the drill. I'll see you in the next episode.